Hello everybody. Today I'm here to explain the fourth chapter of your English language, that is from the Diary of Anne Frank. So the title of the lesson itself, the prose itself, it explains that it's a own story of Anne Frank here. She's a 13-year-old girl who was a victim, who suffered a lot, so that she has shared in this diary. So she wanted to have a diary always, as we always will be willing to have a companion. The secrets can only be shared with the special people. So likewise, Anna Frank, she also needs and she also wants to share her suffering, the joyous moments, everything of our emotions with a person. But she could not find anybody who was very much closer to her heart. One day she found a diary and decides to write on it up. Why? Because the paper and a pen, whatever you have and whatever the thoughts you have in your mind, it gives a wings to her thoughts, and it can be jotted down and it never replies back. Anywhere, anytime, and whatever the situation might be, it gives out a kind of and it takes a side of a girl. So she decides to write up her diary. So this is wholly the experience what she has gone through during 1942 to 44. A story about her, what's inside in it, and who is she and where she belong to, where is she from. So all those informations will be just learning in this lesson, that is a story of Anna Frank, so which has been written up by her own, and the speaker, the narrator, everything is her itself. As I told, she is a little 13-year-old girl. So before we read up the lesson, we have to go through the introduction of her. So her full name is Anneliese Marie Anne Frank. So her period, that is, she was born on 12th of June 1929 until by March or February 1945. The exact month and the date we did not get it. So that is the thing, randomly they have given up the month and the year. Year is confirmed, but the month and the date is confused here. She was a German who was born and brought up in a Jewish family. So she is a Jewish girl who wrote while in hiding with her family and 4 friends in Amsterdam during the German occupation of the Netherlands in World War II. So this has happened during the World War II, where the Germans who took over the power of the place where they were living in, that is in Amsterdam, of the Netherlands, the German occupation was done. This was during the situation of World War II. Her family had moved to Amsterdam after the Nazis gained power in the Germany, but were trapped when the Nazi occupation extended into the Netherlands. So they were just after the occupation of Nazis gained over the power and the Netherlands were extended. And as the prosecutions against the Jewish population increased, the family went into hiding in July 1942 in the hidden rooms in her father Otto Frank's office building. So it was a very threatful situation from them. They might have been killed up. So the photo, what we are just looking at the pages here, this is the photo of Anne Frank here. This is a photo, and I would wish myself to look all the time. So she's very beautiful and young enough. Then I would maybe have a chance to come to Hollywood. These are the lines written by her own. So her family is in trouble and they are hiding in father's office. The group was betrayed and transported to the concentration camp system where Anne died of typhus in Bergen-Belsen within days of her sister. So this is a kind of an infectious disease where there was no medication and all. Within the days of her sister's infection, which has been got over, and the sister, Margot Frank, her father, Otto, the only survivor of the group. So during the separation itself, Anne Frank have died, and only the left out were only two in this group, that is father and the sister of Anne Frank. Convinced that it was unique record, he took action to have it published in English under the name The Diary of a Young Girl. So her father, who was very much concerned about the daughter's diary, what she has written up the things in her diary, he took just a very keen interest to publish these things when he returned after the Second World War. And he was very concerned to just publish this thing that is under the heading, that is the name of the diary of young girl in the language of English. The diary was given to Anne Frank for her 13th birthday and chronicles the events of her life from 12th of June 1942 until its final entry of 1st of August 1944. So this special diary was given as a gift for her 13th birthday. She has started up to write up the diary on the particular day, that is 12th June 1942. The final entry that is the last pages of the diary was written in the year 1944, 1st of August. It was eventually translated from its original Dutch into many languages and became one of the world's most widely read books. So it was very much popular during those days when it was published off, and it was translated right from the Dutch to many other regional languages, which helped the people to read on in their own language. So this was one of the plus points where the diary has become so popular around the world. There has also been several films, televisions, and the theoretical productions, and even an opera based on the diary. So many other activities has happened which is based on the diary. Not only the readings, but the opera, the theater activity have been done up, which are described as the work of the mature and the insightful mind. The diary provides an intimate examination of the daily life under Nazi occupation. So what the Jewish fellows and the Germans who have been got upon when they are in the Amsterdam, what they have gone through, those things has been shared up in this diary. Anne Frank became one of the most renowned and discussed of the Holocaust victims. So she was one of the victims where she suffered a lot, and those things were written up in her diary. And children, do remember always, a book will be the best friend of the human. Though we consider the dog also as one of the best friends, but whereas the uniqueness of the book or the diary or the paper or whatever the things you use up to write the things, especially your own things that maybe your emotions filled or whatever it may be. So those things will be very, very special to our hearts, right? So here, why I'm telling this, because everybody needs some privacies and some people or a special person to share their secrets. Here I'm not talking about the secrets, but sharing their feelings, the emotions, what they have got through. They need a person. So Anna Frank, she just think that diary would be the better option, because it would be seeming very strange for you people, but it will always be ready to get noted down and share up our feelings, whatever we have in our minds, with open-hearted. So that is the open feature of the diary. Writing the diary, it's kind of a silly thing or a strange thing that you might experience. That is what she says here before writing up her diary. Writing in a diary is really strange experience for someone like me, that is Anne Frank, because she was not used to it before. And then not only because I have never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later on neither I nor anyone else I will be interested in the musing of 13-year-old schoolgirl. So she starts up. The particular date has been given up in the last pages of the lesson. You just underline it, and please do remember when she starts up, that is 1942, and ends up in 1944, that is August of 1st. Then she is a 13-year school-going girl, and she says, oh, well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing, and I have even greater need to get all the kinds of the things of my chest. So I'm very glad that I found up a companion, so I can tell all my secrets to this diary. Paper has more patience than people. Yes, of course, it's true. It has more patience. If we tear also, it doesn't reply back and it doesn't give up a word to us. It very quietly, it just tolerates all the actions what we do. We erase, we scratch upon, we poke the book, whatever we do. Everything will be patiently, they will suffer along and they come along. I thought of this saying on of those days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hands. Bored and listless, that is energyless or without any interest, wondering whether to stay in or go out. When the day it was very boring enough, and she was very confused that she might go out or stay in, I finally stayed where I was brooding. Yes, paper does have more patience, and since I'm not planning to let anyone else read the stiff-backed notebook grandly referred to as a diary, unless I should ever find a real friend, it probably won't make a bit of difference. And she was not willing to share her diary to be read to anybody else, except she finds a best friend or a real friend who really understands what it has been written in the diary. Now, back to the point that promoted me to keep a diary in the first place. I don't have a friend. And first of all, she says that in the diary that she doesn't have any friend at all. But the war situation is going on. Definitely, the parents will not be allowing the little children to go out because we don't know what happens. In any moment, they may lose their life. Let me put it more clearly, since no one will believe that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone in the world. Can you believe that 13-year-old will be alone? No. Unless her parents are alive and her relatives are alive, she won't be considered as an orphan or alone in the world. And she says that I'm not, I have loving parents and 16-year-old son who is elder sister. And there are about 30 people I can call friends. She says that yes, I do have a sibling that is 16-year-old sister. And I have a people around me who I can call them as a friends, around 30 people. I have a family, loving aunts and a good home. How can I be called as alone? I have all these things. No, on the surface, I seem to have everything except my one true friend. I have everybody, but only one thing is missing. What is that? That is the true friend. All I think about when I'm with friends is having a good time. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary, everyday things. So I can talk to the other people, the family members and the friends whom I call upon. I can discuss only my daily things and the ordinary talks, but not the special talks. We don't seem to be able to get any closer, and that's the problem. So I can't be very close to them. I can manage and say hi and bye, and I can maintain that relationship, but not more than that. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. Confide to tell the secret things privately to a person. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately, they are not liable to change. So, she was only missing the thing is the true friend of her life, and she cannot trust anybody who she has already. This is why I started the diary. So, this is the major reason that she has started up the diary here. Then later, to enhance the image of this long awaited friend in my imagination, I don't want to jot down the facts in this diary the way most people would do. So she doesn't want to jot down the things as kind of an imagination or a kind of the things how usually the people writes. But I want the diary to be my friend. I'm going to call this friend. I mean, that is Kitty. She just doesn't want the diary to be treated as normal book, as how the people would prefer and will always they think that it's a kind of a normal book. She doesn't want to do so. She wanted to give a special feeling and special appearance and special place in her heart and with the other things whatever she has, and she believes that this would be precious to her, and she was willing to call her diary as Kitty. So the diary which she started up to write, that was Kitty. So moving on for the next pages of the lesson here. So she started up to call upon the diary as Kitty. Who's Kitty? The name of the diary. Since no one would understand a word of my stories to Kitty, if I were to plunge right in, I would better provide a brief sketch of my life, much as I dislike doing so. She says that no one is able to understand a word of my stories to Kitty. I would be able to explain and if I would be willing to brief off my sketch, but I don't want to do so because I consider this itself as a precious thing and I don't want to keep it as a ordinary book. And she says, my father, the most adorable father I have ever seen, did not marry my mother until he was 36. So when he was, until he was 36-year-old, they were not married. I mean, she's talking to her parents about her parents. She was 25. My sister Margot was born in Frankfurt of Germany in 1926. And I, that is Anne Frank, was born on 12th of June 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4. My father emigrated to Holland in 1933. My mother, Edith Hollander Frank, went with him to Holland in September. Well, Margot and I sent to Achen to stay with my grandmother, and Margot went to Holland in December, and I followed up in the month of February. So the migration, the immigration was going on, and from one place to the other place, there should be someone to take care of the children, right? So some days they were sent to grandmother, and some of the other days the parents were taking with them itself. And finally, she went in the month of February when I was flung down on a table as a birthday present for Magda. So she has given up a birthday bash to her sister. I started right away at the Montessori nursery school. I stayed there until I was 6. She was there with grandma till by 6 of the years, at which time I started in the first form. In the 6th, from my teacher was Mrs. Cuperas, the headmistress of the school. At the end of the year, we were both in tears as we said as a heartbreaking farewell. She was loving to go to school and she was very much loved with grandma and she loved to stay with grandma. The summer of in the year 1941, grandma fell ill and had to have an operation, so my birthday passed with little celebration. So when in the summer holidays, that is during 1941, her grandma had to undergo with an operation. So her birthday was celebrated not so grandly, but very in a simple way. Grandma died in the year 1942. No one knows how often I think of her and still love her. Yes, definitely. We do have a love towards our grandparents. This birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for the other, and grandma's candle and was lit along with the rest. So a kind of a consoling celebrations, and the 1942 year birthday celebration was very much intended to take up the consolation, and the candles was lit up in the name of grandma who can rest in peace. And four of us are still doing well the present date, that is 20th of January 1942. And that the solemn dedication of my diary, that is the only dedication of my diary, is to my grandma. And the situation which started up, it was well till by the night of 20th of June 1942. So what happens next? What she writes up in the diary? So we will just see up in the next class. So whatever the introduction about Anna Frank and the briefication of the lesson I have given, please do revise it, and I'll be meeting you up in my next video. Till by then, happy learning.